Hello, I'm Sally, and welcome to a little time-lapse video of a very warm, summery illustration titled Summer Days, featuring some of my original characters. Here I'll be showing you and chatting about the process of illustrating this piece in Clip Studio Paint start to finish. I hope you enjoy the last bit of summer vibes while watching this. So for this piece, I knew I wanted to do a full, multiple characters and background illustration. I tend to just stick with character art, and it's really just characters standing there. And if I want to improve and grow and really aim for a more comic style, I want to get more comfortable telling a story in a single illustration. And to do so, I really need to work on my backgrounds. I have done illustrations with backgrounds before, but reflecting on it, it sometimes feels like just out of place, like the character was kind of just stuck onto the background instead of actually existing in the same plane together. And along with that, I've been wanting to draw more than just one character in a piece and actually have them interacting. So after doing a couple of lessons and practices independently, I felt like it was really time to apply all that I have learned so far. For doing the line art, I definitely could have just used the line tool in Clip Studio Paint or using like Shift to draw straight lines, but I really didn't want it to look too manufactured. I thought that like manually drawing the lines would help give the drawing some more life and match the rest of the scene as well, like the character's line art style. And overall, line art is kind of calming. It's not my favorite part of the process, but it is pretty relaxing, honestly. The characters in this piece are, from left to right, Lapis, Jade, and Ruby. These are three original characters that are the protagonists of my story that I'm currently writing and creating concept art for. I really want to bring this world that I've been creating in my mind and on paper to life, so I had a lot of fun during this illustration doing so. It also felt very fitting to draw a calm summer afternoon scene since at the time of me illustrating this, it was just perfectly in season and just very inspiring. While I was in the middle of this illustration, Clip Studio Paint actually released their simple mode for tablets, which is basically like a very bare bones layout view, kind of similar to Procreate if you're familiar with that UI on the iPad. I could see the use of something if you really just want to like sketch or you don't need all this other fancy tech on the sides of your screen. But I didn't really like it for my use case personally because I couldn't use all of their special features like vector layers and color layers. And that's kind of the whole reason why I use Clip Studio Paint as opposed to Procreate for certain illustrations. I prefer to use Procreate for sketching and sometimes finished pieces if they're more textured. But when I am doing like a really detailed, a really in-depth piece, I like to go to Clip Studio Paint so I can have all of these things that I can manipulate. So while I can see the use for the simple mode on the tablet, and I can definitely see a use for it in the future, it didn't really fit what I had in mind at the time of making this. My favorite part of the whole illustration would probably be the ice creams. Looking up all of the possible designs I could use for the references was just so nostalgic and felt kind of silly in a good way. Like I really enjoyed it. I love drawing and especially coloring all the designs, and it was just so fun. I do wish that I had done maybe a little bit less, like just a wall of each design rather than each individual popsicle in its wrapper on the shelf, if that makes sense. Just because it took me way longer than I'm willing to admit. And I do think it's kind of a bit too much detail in the background and kind of draws the eyes away from the character, which I don't really like. But at the end of the day, it was a really fun process to just get lost in. And that was my biggest priority, just enjoying the process and trusting the process and not really worrying too much about the actual result. Coloring and rendering in general really is my favorite part, just because I think it really helps bring it all together and unite everything in the illustration. I really enjoy using layer settings as well, like color burn or soft light. I think it just helps add a lot of unity, as well as like overlay, right? If you want the whole drawing to have a little bit more of a blue tint or a little bit more of an orange tint, depending on the time of day it is or something, you can use overlays, and it just, even if the color scheme is really chaotic and like really like a lot going on, using layer settings definitely help to just unify everything and kind of give everything like a certain undertone. I also really loved coloring books growing up, and coloring my own line art drawings just feels kind of like a little custom coloring page, which I do think would be really fun to maybe produce my own coloring sheets in the future, either as digital downloads or even like physical versions that I sell in my shop. But yeah, let me know what you think about that, because I think that is a really interesting and really fun idea for me. I do think that shadows are a bit hard for me still. I just still have a lot to learn when it comes to light sources and shadows. And as skilled as I believe myself to be in a lot of different areas, I have plenty of areas that I still need to learn and grow. So I definitely am always open minded to wanting to improve. Like, even if I can acknowledge and see my own improvement, I know that being creative means that like you're never done improving. You're just going to keep getting better, and practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes improvement, and aiming for perfection isn't ever something that I was ever interested in. I want to aim for just improvement. I want to aim for being better than myself yesterday. And sometimes you go backwards, sometimes you go forwards, but either way, it's all about what you want to get out of it. I've also been using a lot of Clip Studio Paint's 3D model features a lot lately, and I've been finding really cool ones on the assets page on their site. This isn't sponsored, by the way. This is just genuinely the tools that I use and enjoy using. But these assets really help me practice proportion with multiple characters and depth, as well as like getting a really accurate perspective with the objects. So you can basically place different 3D objects into the same plane. So if you move it around, if you have a certain angle of the camera, it all just makes sense. It looks real. Some people may not like using the 3D models and feel like it's not maybe a genuine way of illustrating, but I just see this as a tool to reach my desired outcome easier. And especially with digital art, since the whole point is to make things more accessible and a little bit more easy and just more forgiving, I think that it is honestly just another tool, just like you would use a texture brush, for example. And hey, I'm all for working smarter and not harder. So as you saw, I built my scene with 3D objects and posed the models for the characters as I'd like. I've actually already saved my character's attributes to a template, things like height and body weight and certain body proportions. I did this while I was creating their character sheets, and it was a great feature to help me stay consistent across all the concept art that I'm making now. One issue I can see though with using 3D models for posing characters is they do look kind of stiff, which I think this piece does end up suffering a bit from. When I was ready to do the lines, or at least the sketches after placing my 3D models, what I did was that I actually blurred the model when I was using it as a reference, so it wouldn't be like a one-to-one exact trace of what the model looks like, and I can try to add my own flow to it that way. Regardless, this is a personal piece that I'm using to practice and learn and enjoy, so I'm not too upset with the fact that they do look a bit stiff, but it is something to keep in mind while drawing and using these 3D bases. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and commenting maybe what your favorite part of this drawing was. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I would love to chat in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to keep up with what's coming next. Currently, I am working on Inktober drawings, and this will be another video, which will be kind of similar to this, but more like in person, because I'll be doing inks, a lot more illustration, but with all black and white. So I'm hoping to do like 20 to 30 illustrations that are mostly just like ink sketches or ink line art. And it'll be really fun and super Halloween / witchy themed. So consider sticking around and following my other socials to keep up with me. And if you're interested in my comic about these characters that I briefly mention in this and other videos, stay tuned for an intro video. I do have one planned. Not sure when it will be out, but hopefully pretty soon. And if you subscribe, you'll be the first to know. If you made it to the very end here, leave a sun emoji so I know who's watching the whole way through. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay creative, friends. Bye.